really is a joy to work with them every day in what we do to serve you and our mission and vision. All right, let's see, I think I hit everything. So now I get the awesome opportunity to introduce our keynote presenter, Tammy Daugherty. Tammy is a change management and talent strategist with more than 25 years of experience in change management. Tammy is well-versed in culture shift dynamics and simplifies the complex process of managing change, improving the people experience. We're excited to have her present Leadershift Ethics, Things Must Change. So welcome, Tammy.
Well, good morning, Michigan CPAs and friends and whoever else crashed our party last night at Bingo, Singo. Welcome, and thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and just the great event is going on today and yesterday. Didn't they do a great job so far? I just want to give them another round of applause. Thank you. So I heard that you wanted to stay today because you had such a fun time yesterday, and when I heard that, I thought I need to level up my presentation so that you all feel that when you walk out today, you should have paid so much more and you got such a good bargain. So with that, I would love to get your participation and ask you 3 big visionary questions. I remember Mark talked yesterday morning about vision and how important it is. So my first question, by show of hands, if you can agree with me, who wants to see big things happen in your business? Yeah. Who wants to overcome those things that have been holding you back? Amen, right? And last, who wants a story to tell of how you won? Right? I know I do. And I also know that you are writing your business story. No matter what the odds, no matter what you're up against, you can overcome the odds and be successful by leading yourself well through change when it's the hardest time to lead. So again, my name is Tammy Daugherty, and I am a change management and talent strategist. And so what that is it's my calling to help you learn how to lead yourself better, like at a higher level, so that you can create situations for your employees to be better and to want to perform really well for you so that you can drive business. And it all starts all the way back over here with us, right? Your moral and ethical leadership will raise all ships, right? It'll lift everyone around you, everyone in your sphere of influence. Some immediately, others eventually. Your moral behaviors and leading at the highest level will just raise everyone up around you. It's kind of like the ship raises, or excuse me, what is it they say? High tide raises all ships, right? We're the tide that has to raise all the ships. So for over 25, 27 years, I think it is now, I have been leading change management and doing talent strategy for many different organizations, from the Fortune 50 all the way through to the sole proprietor. And I've been blessed enough to be able to work with a lot of the CEOs and C-suite, I call it CEOville, it's like its own little town, all the way through to the sole proprietor. And one thing is always true. No one loves and is excited about change. And that's the challenging part. And when you're leading and you're in charge of people and you're in charge of your practices, we're constantly dealing with change in the industry. And that's when it gets stressful and difficult. Have you ever been in a situation where you're trying to maybe lose a few pounds? Right? For those of you who haven't gone through that, bless your heart, and you can imagine with me. But so think about this. If you're trying to lose a few pounds and you're getting ready to go to dinner with colleagues, and you do this dinner every month, right? And you're really starting this new track. You're trying to really hold true to yourself. And of course, they pick Italian, and Italian's the most difficult restaurant to be good at. But you're committed. So you go and you sit down and you're like, okay, I made it through the appetizers. I didn't eat the mozzarella sticks. Yes, check. Dinner, I'm getting the salad and protein and the vegetable, no bread. I really want the spaghetti and meatballs. Nope, check. All right, I made it. Then dessert comes, right? It only takes that one person to say, who's sharing dessert with me, before all the dominoes start to fall. Tammy, will you please just have half of it with me? No, I'm kind of getting full. Just one bite of tiramisu. Okay, I think I can handle one bite, right? Before you know it, the tiramisu comes out, and I am tearing through that tiramisu. Tiramisu is my favorite. But what if one person that was sitting next to you, we'll call him Joe, and Joe's sitting next to you, and before dinner's even served, he says, you know what, guys, I'm not getting dessert tonight. I made a promise to myself. I've got some health and wellness goals. I really want to meet them, and before I even get to dessert, I want to let you know that I'm out. Wouldn't that give you a little bit of encouragement to say, I'm out too, and then hold to it? But what if I even took it up another level, and Joe, who comes every time that you guys have dinner, he sits next to you. He's not only a successful CPA with 15 people firm, ready to double, but he also is very health and wellness minded all the time. And every time he comes, he never gets the dessert. He never gets the appetizers. He always orders the good food. Wouldn't that inspire you a little bit to understand what Joe's doing that makes that work, want to be a little bit better? Well, that's what today is about. I want to encourage you to determine now. I'm going to give you some very tactical things. How do you lead yourself at a higher level? Right? We're all pretty good people. We're all moral, ethical. That's what we do. But how do you know what to do? How do you always know what that should be? So I have a question for you, and I'm going to do by a show of hands. And I'd love to know who is my makeup. So how many sole proprietors are out there today? How many sole proprietors do we have? A couple? Okay. And what about firms of 5 or less? And firms of 6 to 15-ish? Oh, okay. Who's an employee here? Oh, great, great. And then anyone who doesn't fit in those categories? Okay, I got you. Well, I want to share one thing about leadership, and this is something we all know, but leadership is influence, right? So if you're a sole proprietor, if you're an employee here today, if you don't have people that you lead in a reporting structure, it doesn't matter because we all are leaders of someone. Whenever we walk into a room, we are impacting people by the way we treat them, by the way we smile, by the way our attitudes are. We're influencing people. And so I just want to encourage you, everything we're talking about will be applicable. Okay, so what if I asked you all to grab all of your things, stand up, and move 3 seats to your right? How do you think that would go? Maybe a little something like this. What? Did she just say she wanted us to move? Surely she didn't say that she wanted us to move. I mean, who does she think she is? We just got here, I was early, I got my seat in a special spot, in the same spot I was yesterday. I always sit here and I always want to look at the stage from the same spot. I don't know why she's asking us to do this. Maybe if I stall, I won't have to get up. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll get up. Holy cow, I've got all my stuff, I'm unpacked, I'm all ready to go. Now I've got to get all my stuff, I've got so much stuff. All right, 1, 2, 3, I think this is 3. Oh, 3, okay, yeah, you're right, thank you. All research on it. I don't even understand why she did this. I can still see her at least, still hear her, although I'm not very happy with her, but I will listen. Kind of something like that. Okay, what's the point of all this, Tammy? The point is that no one likes change. And if you're leading, you're probably driving changes in your business, right? No one likes it, no one enjoys it. And there's a whole science behind this. And it's really important to know that if you're driving changes, you're ahead of that curve. You're already bought in, you're already driving it. But everybody else is behind you. They don't really understand why, they don't get it. And there's a job there that you have as a leader to do, because no one likes it. Whether it's small change and infinitesimal, like let's just move our chair down, maybe you're reorganizing your office and moving people around, all the way to the biggest type of changes where you might be letting people go. People's livelihoods are at stake. So no matter what the change is, don't underestimate the impact of how difficult it is on folks. It is on folks. All right. When change is happening, it gets really, really hard to lead because it's very, very challenging and it's very stressful. And our business is stressful. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm an instructional designer by trade. I used to teach high school history to inner city kids, way back. So I always like you to come out with something that you can walk away with. So there's a handout, if you can grab those. I gave you 3 big whys earlier this morning, visionary whys of your business. How many people are making changes in their business right now? If I could show of hands, whether it's marketing, better marketing, maybe you're moving your offices, implementing technology. If you can hold your hands up just high for a second. Wow, okay. Look around, there's quite a few of you. So if you could take a look, and I want you to pick out what would be a big why for you. If it's one of these 3, great. If it's something else, but it's got to be so important to you that it will make you do the things you don't want to do, that are hard to do when you don't want to do them. So I'm asking you to use one of mine or to write your own, but I'm going to give you a moment, about 30 seconds, to write that down. And then I want you to tell me what you've decided what are you changing, whether it's technology, whether you're moving your office, whether you're growing your business, maybe you're hiring. So write that down. Maybe it's tech, hiring, whatever. Maybe improving cash flow, whatever that is. So let me give you a few seconds to write that down. Fast. Okay, and I want you to tell me, if you would, there's QR codes on your table. This is a poll, so we're going to do about 3 or 4 polls, and we're going to share with each other what we picked, whether it's one of mine or you have your own. So if you could put the QR code on your round table there in the center, or you can, I think, choose that up there. Either way. Did I do that right? Sorry, I can't see the screens too well. And tell me which one you picked. I'd love to see. Oh, there we go. Ah, there we go. Let's see which one is most popular. Okay, I love seeing that you guys have other listed as well, because you have a big visionary statement in your mind already. And those are so important to have front of mind when you are working through business and the day-to-day grind. And then I want to see big things happen in my business. I do too, I love that. So now what I'd like is if you'd share with everyone, I'm not surprised that how to win over that part of my business is pretty popular too, because there's always something that we're trying to overcome, right? Okay, the next question I have for you now, this is a word cloud. So go ahead and go back into the QR code, and I want you to tell me, what was your topic? What is the thing that you are doing that you're changing? Is it technology? Try to use 1 or 2 words, because the word cloud will grow with the words that most people are impacted by. Technology. Efficiency, that's a really good one. That's always improving efficiencies. More locations. Growth, I love this. Look at you guys. You're all so busy. What technology, let me just tell you, it always seems to win whenever I ask this question. And that's just staffing, culture. I love it. All right, look at that. Hiring and technology and growth are the biggies. All right, does this list surprise you at all? No, it doesn't either, and it's very common that technology always takes the cake when it comes to this, but also hiring and growth and those types of things. So it's kind of cool to see what your peers are dealing with, right? If you guys already don't know that. Okay. So I don't have to convince you why moral leadership matters, right? But there are all kinds of studies done. I just pulled one, the World Economic Forum. They went and asked 1,500 business people what they felt how moral leadership was in their sphere, right? And so they asked them the question, if moral leadership looks like this, a leader's behavior to demonstrate superior virtue, self-discipline, and unselfishness on a very consistent basis, what they found was that people all want it, but it's hard to find. They found that the higher levels that you perform at and you have moral leadership in, that you actually have better relationships, which isn't surprising, and then that it drives your business. Now, what was kind of surprised me, but in my own experience, I would probably say the same thing in 27 years, is that about 7% of managers and 8% of CEOs display those type of behaviors most of the time. So we can see that no matter how high in the organization you are or how low, it doesn't really matter. Like, moral leadership is difficult and it's hard to find. Now, the question is, are we going to do the right thing, and what is the right thing? So today we're going to go through what's a litmus test that you can put all of your decisions through. I don't want to oversimplify things, guys, but there are some things that are simple to get started with that can be done. And then what are the ethical principles that I'll give you today, 3 of them that you can choose from and kind of work through. And then that kind of allow you to lead at that higher level and to know how. And then what's the value that underpins that? That helps, if you don't have that value, it kind of, everything else falls flat around it. And then what are some ethical self-strategies that you can kind of keep it going? So with that, let's get into an integrity strategy. And I'm not going to drain this slide for you, but let me just share. When we talk about ethics and compliance, we think about the letter of the law, right? We think about what is it I have to do so I don't break the law and help my clients, and then what's the behavioral impact of it. But I would challenge us to go to the next level of a strategy that's an integrity strategy, which is moving that dial to what is the best thing that I can do? What is the thing I get to do for people? What is the thing I get to help people with my clients? How do I get to help my employees perform better? Those are the things that I want to shift to. And today is about that, is how do we get to that highest level of integrity? So the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, the spirit of the law being integrity. So we have to move to that level. So we can ask ourselves 2 questions. The litmus test for everything, to oversimplify things, but we already understand the letter of the law, right? We understand how that works. But the spirit of the law is, can we always ask ourselves, does it leave that person in a better place when I'm done with what I said, with what I asked them to do, with how I behaved, with how I treated them? Are they left whole in a better place, emotionally, etc.? And then the second one is, can I sleep at night? I know that if in my career early on, if I would have asked myself those 2 questions on a more regular basis, I would have definitely made some better decisions. So that's the first piece, first nugget, if you will. Now let's get into the ethical principles. So we have 3, and I would love for you to take out your worksheet, because I'm going to give you a moment to write down a few things. These 3 principles shouldn't surprise you. They seem pretty simple, right? Culture of collaboration, create openness and communication, and empower employees to act. These 3 things, though, are so powerful. They're the things that make the difference when how we lead people and how we bring them to that level where they want to perform at a better level for themselves, right? If we are great leaders, our people will want to do that. So you'll see that these 3 things, there'll be some different examples I'll provide you in a few minutes, but I truly want you to walk away with how you can dominate your mind so that you can dominate your actions, so that you can dominate your business. And that's the whole goal, because it's all up here. It's all in our heads, and how we tell ourselves things, how we approach things, and we heard Mark say a little bit about that yesterday, those stories we tell. So with that, I want to briefly tell you about the Kubler-Ross change curve. Has anyone heard of this? Oh my goodness, it's amazing. A few of you, okay. So just briefly, this is what people go through when they go through change. It's called the grief loss curve. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a psychiatrist in the mid-20th century. She's like, I really want to understand how people experience grief and loss. So she studied terminally ill patients. Well, this could apply in business or in their personal life. So over time, she studied this, she came up with this curve, and it's called the grief curve. And change management consultants and professionals like myself, they've adopted this model to show that when you put anybody through a change, they go through parts of this curve, steps of it, phases of it. So, for instance, shock. Did she really just ask us to move our seats? Denial. Surely she's not asking us to move our seats. That's not true. Frustration. Oh my gosh, everybody's moving. I have to get up and move my seat. Sorry, I can't see the screen here. Depression. Oh, I've got to get all my stuff. I've got to pack it up. I've got to put it all back. I've got to stand up. I've got to walk down 3 seats. Experimentation. Okay, at least I can still see her. At least I can still hear her. Oh, and look, it's a different perspective. Decision. Wow, actually, I think I might sit in this chair next time. I think this is going to be okay. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought. And last, integration. You know what? Sitting in this new seat every time, I've really learned a lot. I think I'm going to move around in the next conference and sit in a different place. So that's kind of those phases. And just so that you know, when you're driving change in your business, you are very far ahead of that curve. You are probably at the decision point where you already know you want to make the change and it's going to happen and you have to make it happen, but you need the people in your firm to help you make that happen. And they're at the frustration shock level. They're like, what did he just say? Or is this really happening? And so just be patient with them. And my goal here is to just share with you that, and I've seen this so many times, is it seems like people are trying to sabotage, they're trying to make it tough, they're trying to find every reason why the changes you want to make aren't happening. But the truth is they're struggling at this level of the curve. They don't get it. They need to understand why. They need to understand your vision. They need to understand how it's going to affect them. Are they going to lose their job? Are they going to have to learn new skills, etc.? So with that said, they don't always go through the curve in order. You jump around, you can go back and forth, but just to share that with you, that is the Kubler-Ross curve, and that's kind of what we do to make plans to help people through it. And so that's what I want to share with you is what are the things we do to help people lead better so they can help their folks get through that curve faster and be more productive, and you can lead at a higher level. Okay, again, this isn't rocket science, right? It seems simple, and it is, but it's not easy because it takes discipline. So the first one, these are one of the 3 things that you can choose to say, tomorrow I'm going to walk in and I'm going to do something different with my teams tomorrow. So build relationships with your team. What's so fascinating about this principle, you're going to laugh when I tell you this, but people want to know that you know them. They want to know that you care about them. That makes them want to work for you more and harder, right? So some of the most simple things that I have shared with, like I said, from CEOs all down the front line, like it doesn't really matter. If you get to know your people, the simplest way I have been able to do this with folks is number 1, ask people, do you know their spouses' names? Do you know their kids' names? Do you know what their kids do? Do you know where they go on vacation? Do you know what they do over the weekend? I would argue if you don't know some of these things in a small firm, that you might be able to do just a little bit more to make them feel special. And put it in your calendar. It sounds crazy, right? We put hard skills in our calendar and hard meetings, but we don't put soft skills in our calendars. Put it in your calendar on Monday morning. Don't forget to ask Sally, John, and Joe how their weekend went, and then ask them a question about it, right? It seems rote, but it won't be after a while. It'll be part of who you are and what you do to get to know your people. My husband and I, we just got married in March, by the way. A lot of fun. And we decided to take ballroom dancing lessons, right? And we're not very good. In fact, when we dance, we pretend like nobody's watching. But long story short, it's a small company, a small little franchise. There's like 15 people. And our instructor, we were asking her one day, we're like, everybody just loves working here. Like, what is it about the place? She goes, you know what? There's 2 things that make it feel like family. And I'm like, family, really? Like, what are those 2 things? She said, number 1, we celebrate holidays. We go out and they take us to dinner, local places, nothing expensive or fancy, but they just want to celebrate holidays with us. And secondly, they bring in a birthday cake and a birthday card for everybody's birthday. And that makes us feel special. I was like, wow. And I said, well, what about the work of the work? She goes, we can do anything if you know that the people that run the shop care about you. And I thought, that is just so powerful. Okay, number 2, building cross-professional partnerships. So you guys know about, financial planners and all. A client has multiple needs, right? So get to know your partners outside the walls and start to build relationships with them. But believe it or not, that will build collaboration inside the walls. There's a lot of depth here that I can't go into, but you can kind of get the idea of how your team has to work internally to make those partnerships better and grow. And so that's the second piece that you could do. And then the last 2 is celebrate and recognize. One of the hardest things when you're moving things through change is that you forget to celebrate the small wins. And that is so important because changes are hard and most of the time you don't have all the answers. So you're constantly dealing with unanswered questions. And so when you're moving through those things, what's so important is at every stage gate you can celebrate, do that. That's a really important thing for the folks. And then recognition, and you guys know we all feel valued when we can be recognized. Now we all take recognition in different ways. Some folks love to be recognized in front of a group. Some folks, it's just a simple thank you, Joe, thank you so much yesterday. When you took care of that client, it really helped me because I was so worried about this and I had so much on my plate. Now, Joe's job is to do this, right? But for some reason yesterday, it meant a lot more to you. Talk to him about that. Recognize folks in front of the group. Those types of things will help you. So I want to just give you maybe 30 seconds. Think through, how do you create a better culture of collaboration? Maybe my ideas that I've given you and best practices, maybe you've thought of something yourself. But I would love for you to be able to walk out and say, I put in my calendar that I'm going to do X, Y, and Z starting Monday to help my folks, so I can lead them better. You guys are all excellent leaders, I can see. Dark humor every once in a while. You've seen these motivational posters, right? Achievements. You can do anything if you set your mind to it and you have a vision and determination and an endless success of expendable resources. Thank you. We don't want to see people as simply tools or resources, right, to get where we want to go. We don't want to leave a trail of bodies, right? We really want to lead ourselves in a better place and leave our folks in a better place. All right, my dark humor is not going over very well. But you guys all get it. Okay, ethical principle number 2, openness and communication. So one of the things that people do in psychology is when you don't know information about changes, you fill in the blanks yourself with the worst possible stories imaginable. So if you're a leader and you're not really explaining why you're changing things, stories will be made up. It's not because people are being mean, it's just because we truly don't realize what's happening to us and our brain just automatically goes to the worst possible thing so that we can make sure we're prepared for it. And sometimes the changes you guys are making they're hard, but they're always going to be good for the business. And so what's important to do is to talk about those very things. Keep that vision ahead of them. When you're really having a hard time, you're not thinking about all the great things about the change, you're thinking about why it's so hard, why it's so difficult. So when you over-communicate, the best way that we have found to do this with our teams is to do stand-up meetings. Does anyone have regular meetings with their firm? How about weekly? How many people do weeklies? That's really, really good. When you're going through a lot of changes, stand-up meetings are so powerful because no one wants to stand up for more than 15 minutes. And you have to get everything done within the 15 minutes. And so making sure as a leader that that's happening and people are being kept informed. And as a leader, keeping that notebook on the side of your desk and writing down at the end of each day, what is it that I did today that I really need to tell my team about? Right? That is just such a simple thing. At the end of the day, 5 minutes. Then by the end of the week, you've got a list of at least 5 things, probably more. It really is empowering. It's amazing to me how many leaders say, I don't have a lot to say, and then they start to track it every day. They just write one thing down a day like my team really needs to know. We have stand-up meetings sometimes with bigger teams at 15 minutes every day in the morning so that we can knock out whatever it is. And then we also can use that time to recognize people and to celebrate things too. So that's the best vehicle and the fastest vehicle to get information out with small teams. The other things here about being transparent, you all know that it's so critical to tell folks all that you can, right? Once in a great while, I have come across situations where we couldn't say something, right? We're getting ready to outsource and about 1,000 employees are gonna lose their job or whatever. That really wouldn't happen in this situation, but those are the very, very rare times you have to be so wise in how you handle that. But for the most part, people know that you don't have all the answers, because when it comes to changing things, you're trying to figure it out. And the more you can get them involved in that, the more they're gonna support that. Let me ask you guys a question here. How many of you that are making changes in the past have had employees resist the change in some way or format? You're right. Okay. All right. I was just curious, like, how much you're seeing that, because it's so common. It's so common. Okay. And then provide feedback loops. Does anyone know what that means? Feedback loops? It's pretty straightforward, but ultimately, you want people to give you feedback on how the changes are going. So if you're making changes and they can make it better, that's really critical, because when you get them bought into the change and get them participating, they're going to actually help you with the changes and move it forward with you. So that's really that's a really important psychological thing, is that if I don't feel like this is being done to me, then maybe I'll give it a chance. Maybe I can figure it out with you. And what happens a lot is the questions that go unanswered. People that help you define those, so new business processes, like I saw technology was the biggest. That's kind of my specialty, is I implemented technology for like 25 years. And so the biggest challenge is for people, they don't know what's happening. And so when you get people involved to say, I want you to help us define the change, with the technology, there's going to be things happening outside of the system that are going to require changes in our processes, right? So the system's not only just changing, but everything outside of it could be changing. We don't know what that is. Sally, do you mind tracking down with the software company, these transactions? What does that mean? What do other companies do? How do they make their systems more efficient and their outside processes more streamlined? And so those type of things, getting them involved in the feedback loops of what's going well, what are they struggling with, and then listening to them, and then acting on it. With a small firm, you can put a little shoebox out in the middle of we do this even in the big offices. We put a shoebox out and say, put in your recommendations, put in your questions, we'll address these in our 15-minute stand-ups, right? We'll follow up. Maybe if you don't want to do it that way, people will come to you. Make sure following up with them, explaining, why is this a good idea? Let's go track this down. Or, you know what, Joe, this isn't something we can do right now, but we really appreciate your thoughts. So that follow-up, knowing that their idea or thought wasn't just dismissed, is another key piece in helping folks to feel good about what they do. Okay, I'm gonna give you one moment to pick a principle, number 2, that you think that you could do tomorrow or starting Monday, that would help you lead at a higher level to drive that communication and culture of collaboration, or the openness and communication, what you can do better. Those of you who have meetings every week, do you guys go through changes that are happening in the business? I saw a bunch of folks over here. Let me ask it a different way. The meetings that you have every week, the changes that you're making, are you able to move changes faster because of your meetings? Have you noticed that, or is that something that's new here?
Yes.
Yes, how so?
Well, because we're now starting to get all on the same page, and I'm also able to assign tasks relative to that change to other team members. So it goes to your next point, which is the collaborate, or the previous one with the collaboration, or whatever, right? So we're gonna start doing this, you need to do this, so that way we can be there. So it's kind of getting them involved in that change.
Yeah, that's really powerful, creating that, getting on the same page, creating that collaboration. Yeah, thank you for that example, I appreciate that. Anybody else? Are you guys implementing technology?
Pardon me?
Are you implementing technology?
Yes.
Always. I know it is. Yes, I know it so well. Okay, let me move on. All right, great. Last one is empower employees to act. And to your point, you're getting folks involved in solving the problems, getting them on the same page. So let's talk through that. Get involved and stay involved. So if you're an employee, get involved, and you're probably here because you're involved, but make sure you're understanding what's happening. Help out with it because it's happening, right? You gotta figure out how to get on the bus and support your leader. But so figure out how to get involved because you can help define the changes with them and make that better. And then as a leader, don't ever delegate it off. It's really your job to be visible and verbal at all times, making those stand-up meetings, making the meetings all the time. Even if you're not driving the meetings and leading it, being there, being visible, because only you can connect all the dots for folks and really help people collaborate and assign work together. So that's what I would encourage you to do. I've seen leaders, even of small groups, say, oh, John, this is yours, make sure this technology gets implemented, keep you updated weekly, right? And that's really hard on everybody in the firm because they don't know your vision. They're not reminded of your vision all the time, right? Joe's gonna do some of these things, but you are the one that has a vision for your business. You are the one that can articulate it at any given moment, and you can encourage people in a way only you can. And then provide them a reason for the change. So, we talk a lot about in change management, we always articulate what's the reason for the change. We work with leaders to get really succinct on that. But the second piece that people care about even more is what's gonna happen to me. And what's nice about small firms is that you can usually know what's gonna happen for the most part. In larger organizations, it's much more complicated, and a lot of people switch roles and switch jobs, and some get let go. But I think what's important here is people want to know, and if you don't know, that's okay too. I think that knowing that you're being transparent with them is the key as you go through the changes. And the last, encourage participation in a meaningful way. So I think you were just mentioning that earlier, and how do you get them involved? There are so many ways to get people involved. From, hey, John, can you track the questions that are coming up every meeting that we still don't have answers to? Sally, can you work with the software company to organize the training? Because they're going to train us, but we need to make sure that this training works with our schedules, etc. And getting them involved. Maybe you're the process procedure thing, right? Processes are going to change outside the system. Jack, can you make sure you follow up and see what this transaction is, and then how's it going to impact the way we do all of the other stuff outside of that transaction? And so getting them involved, and I know it's more work, right? But if they don't, they're going to continue. It's going to be harder on them if they don't understand it. All right, so I'm going to pause there and give you a moment to pick something that you can do to get employees to act. And I'm curious if there are other examples out there that would be relevant for you that anybody would like to share, because I think this is a really hard thing to think about.
So when I used to work at GT, there were two big changes that happened. One was they started outsourcing, and the other was they started diminishing the bench that we had. So every time a new client would come in, we were all scared because now it's more work for us, or we're outsourcing, our jobs are gonna go away. And that was really hard to understand until you really understood the bigger picture and why they made this decision. So understanding the reason for the change was very beneficial, and how it allowed us to grow and hope and be the leader in the industry was very helpful.
That is very well said. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, because I mean, I was at a big company consulting last year, and I'm like, well, why are you doing the change? And they're like, because we have to, we don't have a choice, or we'll go out of business. And I was like, well, that's not very inspiring. I was like, can you give me a better reason? Because I need to help you craft something that will encourage your folks, give hope, right? So, very good. Anybody else have other ideas, other things? Yes, sir.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Don't be afraid to fail.
And I've had some bosses that were very open when they made a mistake and encouraged employees to say it's okay to be human, it's okay to try something. Because if you don't try, you're not going to succeed. And those employees need to have that same mentality that starts at the top.
I love that. Absolutely. You should be up here speaking. That's so critical, and it creates safety, right, to fail. And then you're going to get some more innovation because of that safety that's created in failing. It's very powerful. Anybody else?
I was gonna say, just to piggyback off our stuff, we say fail fast and pivot.
What's that?
Fail fast and pivot.
Fail fast and pivot. I love that. Yeah, we say fail to success. It's like driving that in a cockpit. You know, you get in simulators and you can crash 50 times and nobody dies, right? It's like, that's the same thing. Anyone else before I move on? You guys are great, thank you. Okay. I'm gonna ask how we're doing on time, because my timer I don't think is working.
About 12 minutes.
12 minutes, okay, we'll move fast. Okay, so tell me which one of these, in your certain circumstance, would be the best business accelerator for you at this moment. If you're thinking about leading at a higher level, of those 3 different areas, by a show of hands, I don't think that we have this question. No, we don't. Improving your culture of collaboration. How many of you will be benefited by that one thing? Is that your accelerator? Okay. And openness and communication. A couple of you are accelerators there. Okay. And empower employees to act. Okay, a lot of you. Okay. All right. So make sure you share with each other different ideas, maybe throughout the day, on how you can empower others to act, because I think that takes a lot of thought, and we don't really think about it. We're so busy all day. So think through that and share with that. I think that's a critical one that would really drive things. And some of you may not be sure yet. That's okay too. All right, underpinning values. So let's see if this works. Without empathy, a lot of this can fall flat because people don't know or think that you care. So I'll give you 3 things. So Renee talks about empathy and what it sounds like. So early in my career, I didn't really have great EQ. And I was always wanting to get into the work, get it done, get it finished. And tell me about your weekend later, but I will help you, but let's get this work done. And so over time, that doesn't go really well. And I always wanted to solve people's problems. And so when I was young, and I learned quite a bit, that doesn't work. And so what I did is I learned when I was high school history teacher about wait time, because part of it is being quiet and just listening. Because if you're a solver, you just want to say something. And it's called wait time. It takes 10 seconds, and you ask a question to the group of 20 11th graders who don't want to be there, a question, and then you have to count to 10 in your head until they answer the question. It only takes till about 7 seconds, somebody pipes up. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I can learn this skill because empathy is learnable. I'm like, I'm going to implement that skill, I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to listen. And then second, I don't know what to say sometimes. And so I pulled several things out of my back pocket. I would memorize them. Like, I'm so sorry you're going through that. That's much better than saying anything that you heard Renee joke about, right? Because I would say some of those things, well, at least, right? But learning those things, having them in my back pocket, and then once I just didn't have the vocabulary. I had the heart, but I didn't have the vocabulary on how to help them and how to be there for them. And so I just started memorizing phrases and how to respond, and then that just became me. And so I just want to make sure that folks are understanding that it is a learnable skill, which I didn't think it was, but and then asking them, how can I help them? And so those are 3 things. They're really simple, right? But I want to just share that with you because if that is something that you struggle with, it is a skill that can be learned, and it's really, really so powerful when people know that you care, and just understanding the things that all this works together. Remember the ballroom dancing story and how Carly was telling us why she felt like it was a family, because they cared. Thank you. And so anyway, all that to say, I did have a question for you about which skill, but I think we're gonna run out of time, but we can try. So which skill do you think would help you in building empathy? And again, everybody has some level of empathy, absolutely. But how we behave towards someone, can we show them empathy? I believe this might be a word cloud. Oh, better listening, yeah, trying to solve problems. Respecting a different perspective. Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing, right? Is sometimes we want to go to judgment, which is really something we really have to check ourselves with. It's hard to listen sometimes and not solve because you feel for somebody. Wait time. Oh my gosh, allow them to vent. I love it. You guys are great. Thank you for that. The 10-second rule. All right, and then last, how do we keep doing this, right? How do we do better? How do we lead at a higher level? Well, let's just summarize, right? You have to start with a big vision for yourself so that you'll do the hard things even when you don't feel like doing it. That is kind of where it starts, right? If you hear any motivational speaker, if you hear anyone that's very successful in business, you have to have your big why. Because it's gotta be big enough to get you out of bed to do the things that you need to do at 4 a.m. versus waiting until 5 a.m. and getting that stuff done. Second, the litmus test for everything, right? Let's oversimplify it, but can I leave someone in a better place with the way I'm behaving, with the way I'm talking to them, with my voice tone, inflection, the things that I'm asking them to do? Practicing empathy, we talked about that. When you're going through changes in your business, people get stressed. And sometimes irrational stress, right? Sometimes it's rational stress, but how do I treat them with empathy and value and respect what they need? And then third, building your skills and managing ethically through change. So we have 3 power things that we can do, right? To hit your power list, right? Culture of collaboration, over communicate, and get people and empower them to act. Those are 3 very powerful things. Now, you'll go to lots of different things and see that lots of people speak, and they'll give you all different kinds of things, right? There's so much more that can be done, but those 3 things are power makers. They are the ones that can make the difference, those 3 skill sets. So I know we're about out of time. I don't know if we have time for questions. We do?
Couple minutes.
Okay. All right, great. Any comments, questions? I like this small group, we can all hear each other. Is this stuff new? Heard it before? What are your thoughts?
It's a good reminder.
Thank you.
I'm really interested by your concept that empathy can be learned. So that's something I struggled with in working with other people in my department. And it might be my own bias that I think they can't learn. So I give up on them.
So, can you talk a little bit about overcoming that?
Sure, absolutely. So the reason I believe, and I've seen that as a skill that can be learned, is because sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. For me, I cared about people, but I cared about them within my own convenient context. You know, if it was convenient for me or not. Well, then I just had to learn that there are things that I can say that would demonstrate empathy. There are things that I can do to demonstrate empathy. And after a while, it starts to become you. When you practice it, it's like fake it till you make it, like do the thing, and then eventually your heart will catch up or your mind. Now, there are those very few situations where you have very narcissistic, they're a very small part of the population, like that are, you know, crazy people, right? And I do think some people can't learn it, but I don't think that's true for most people. And that, everything in research that I've seen, it is possible. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
For small groups, is there a cadence, say once a month during the group activity, or team activity that you recommend?
As a group together, all kinds of fun things that people do to create team. And are you talking about building that team collaboration and
Taking the time to build,
taking the time to what?
to build the empathy and build the relationships, yes.
Oh, yeah, you know what, I could probably pull some things for you afterwards, definitely. There's exercises and different things that you can do, there's all kinds, it just depends on the culture of your team and what kind of will fly and what kind of won't. So there's different things that can be done, I'm sorry about that, I can't just pop one off my head because there's different circumstances. So, yep. Yes, sir?
And unfortunately, I didn't do this through that as a child. It was a great cancer survivor. And what a lot of people will say empathetically is, if there's anything I can do, please let me know. They're asking, but most people who are going through stuff don't want to. So I kind of found that it's, if you can say, well, how about if I bring you guys dinner? You know, so that you're not, because people don't want to ask for help.
Right, right. No, that's a very good point. And so being able to offer up something in addition to not just what can I do, but what if I did this, they can say yes or no. I think that's a really good point in offering something up because most people will say no. And I know we've got to wrap up. So let me just leave you with this, guys. Thank you so much. You are such an amazing group. I so appreciate it. I just want to share with you that it is hard to lead well and to lead at the highest level because it takes discipline. and practice. But I do know that if you master self-leadership at the highest level, you can pave the path for your teams to excel, which will eventually drive business results. It always does. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. God bless you all.